The Valoran Empire was the most powerful force in the known galaxy. They had conquered 17 star systems over 300 years. Their warships blocked out the light of suns. Their armies numbered in the billions. No species had ever defeated them in battle. No world had ever resisted their rule for long. Lord Draven stood at the center of the Imperial Council chamber. He was tall, even by Valoran standards. His gray skin was marked with the scars of 100 battles. His eyes were cold and empty, like the void between stars. He had led the Empire's armies for 60 years. He had never known defeat. On the massive display screen behind him, a small blue planet rotated slowly. It was beautiful in a simple way. Oceans covered most of its surface. Green and brown landmasses dotted the water. White clouds swirled across its atmosphere.
Lord Draven said.
His voice echoed through the silent chamber. The humans call it Earth. The council members leaned forward in their seats. They had heard rumors about this world. It sat on the very edge of the galaxy, far from the major trade routes and power centers. The species that lived there had only recently discovered space travel. They had not even left their own solar system yet. Our scouts have studied them for 10 cycles, Draven continued. They are primitive. They fight among themselves constantly. They have divided their single world into hundreds of separate nations. They waste their resources on petty conflicts and meaningless disputes. He smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. They are perfect. The council understood what he meant. The Valoran Empire did not simply conquer worlds. They harvested them. They took the resources, the technology, and the people themselves. Billions of slaves worked in Valoran mines and factories across the galaxy. Earth would simply be the next addition to their collection. I propose we send the Third Fleet, Draven said. 400 warships. 2 million soldiers. We will have the planet under our control within 1 lunar cycle. The council voted unanimously in favor. The decision was made. Earth would fall to the Valoran Empire. But before the fleet could depart, something strange happened. A message arrived from the Galactic Assembly. This was unusual. The Assembly was a loose collection of elder races who had existed for millions of years. They rarely involved themselves in the affairs of younger species. They watched. They recorded. They did not interfere until now. The message was simple and direct. Do not go to Earth. Turn back. Forget you ever saw that world. Lord Draven read the message 3 times. He could not believe what he was seeing. The elder races were afraid. The beings who had watched empires rise and fall, who had seen stars born and die, were warning him away from a single primitive planet. He laughed out loud. More messages arrived over the following days. The Kethmari were ancient traders who had mapped every corner of the known universe. They had information on every species, every world, every resource. But when the Valorans requested data on Earth, the Kethmari refused. They would not explain why. They simply said no and ended all communication. The Luminari were pacifists who had not spoken to any outside species in over 2,000 years. They believed in peace above all else. They did not fight. They did not argue. They simply existed in their quiet corner of the galaxy. But they broke their long silence to beg this Valoran Empire to reconsider. Their representative, a being of pure light, appeared before the council and pleaded with them. You do not understand what lives on that world, the Luminari said. We have watched them for a very long time. They are not like other species. They are something else entirely. Something dangerous. Lord Draven was not impressed. Dangerous? They have not even achieved faster than light travel. Their weapons are primitive. Their defenses are laughable. What could they possibly do to us? The Luminari flickered sadly. You will learn. We only hope that some of you will survive to carry the lesson back. Then they disappeared and never spoke again. The final warning came from the Shadowborn. They were the most feared species in the galaxy. They lived in the dark spaces between stars. They bowed to no one. They feared nothing. Even the Valoran Empire treated them with caution. A Shadowborn envoy arrived at the Imperial capital. This was shocking. The Shadowborn never sent envoys. They never negotiated. They never warned. But this one did. The envoy was a creature of darkness and cold. It stood before Lord Draven and spoke in a voice like breaking ice. "We do not warn," it said. "We do not plead. But we tell you now. Earth is forbidden. Not by law, by survival. Every species that has ever visited that world has regretted it. The ones who tried to conquer it simply vanished. No records. No survivors. Nothing." Lord Draven stepped closer to the creature. He was not afraid. He had never been afraid of anything. "The Valoran Empire does not take orders from anyone," he said. "Not from the Assembly. Not from the Elder Races. And certainly not from you." The Shadowborn was silent for a long moment. Then it made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Tried," it said. "Remember that. When your empire burns and your people scream, remember that we tried to save you." Then it was gone. Lord Draven stood alone in the empty chamber. He thought about the warnings. He thought about the fear he had seen in the eyes of beings who had existed for millions of years. He thought about the strange, primitive world on the edge of the galaxy. Then he made his decision. "Prepare the fleet," he ordered. "We leave in 3 days." His advisors tried one last time to change his mind. They showed him the warnings again. They reminded him that every elder race in the galaxy had begged them not to go. But Lord Draven was certain. He was the greatest military commander the Valoran Empire had ever known. He had never lost a battle. He would not be frightened by ghost stories and old legends. The Third Fleet departed exactly on schedule. 400 warships. 2 million soldiers. Enough firepower to crack continents and boil oceans. They flew toward the small blue, a planet called Earth. They did not know that they were flying toward their doom. The Valoran Third Fleet emerged from hyperspace behind Earth's moon. 400 warships appeared in perfect formation, their dark hulls blocking out the distant stars. Each ship was a masterpiece of destruction. The smallest could reduce a city to ash in minutes. The largest could crack a planet in half. Lord Draven stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Conquest. Through the massive viewing window, he could see Earth for the first time with his own eyes. It was smaller than he had expected. More fragile. He could not understand why the elder races feared such a tiny world. "Begin scanning," he ordered. "I want to know everything about their defenses." His officers worked quickly. Data flowed across their screens. What they found made them smile. The humans had a few satellites in orbit. Some primitive space stations. A handful of ships that could barely travel between their planet and their moon. "They have nothing," his second-in-command reported. "No energy shields. No hyperspace capability. Their weapons are chemical-based projectiles. Our armor will stop anything they can throw at us." Lord Draven nodded. This would be even easier than he had thought. The elder races had been foolish to fear such a backward species. "Open a channel," he said. "Let them know their conquerors have arrived." But before he could transmit his message, something unexpected happened. A human signal reached the flagship first. Someone on Earth was trying to contact them. "Put it through," Draven ordered. A human female appeared on the main screen. She had dark hair and calm eyes. She wore a simple military uniform with no medals or decorations. Behind her, Draven could see other humans working at computer stations. They looked busy, but not panicked. "This is Captain Yuna of the United Earth Defense Council," the woman said. Her voice was steady and clear. "You have entered restricted space. You have 1 chance to leave. There will not be a second warning." The bridge fell silent. Lord Draven stared at the screen. Then he began to laugh. The sound echoed through the chamber, cold and mocking. "1 chance to leave?" he repeated. "Do you know who we are, human? We are the Valoran Empire. We have conquered 17 star systems. We have crushed species far more advanced than yours. And you dare to warn us?" Captain Yuna did not react to his words. Her expression remained calm. She simply waited for him to finish. Draven leaned forward. "Here is my response to your warning. You will surrender your world to us immediately. All humans will submit to Valoran authority. Any resistance will be met with complete destruction. You have 6 hours to comply." He smiled. "If you do not surrender, we will begin by destroying your largest cities. Then we will move to the smaller ones. We will continue until nothing remains but ash and bone. The choice is yours." Captain Yuna listened to the entire message without moving. When Draven finished, she tilted her head slightly. For a moment, she almost looked sad. "So be it then," she said quietly. The transmission ended. Lord Draven felt a small chill run down his spine. He did not know why. The human had said only 4 words, but something in her voice had disturbed him. It was not fear. It was not anger. It was something else, something he could not name. He pushed the feeling aside. He had a planet to conquer. "Begin the invasion," he ordered. The Third Fleet moved into position. Troop transports separated from the main warships. Landing craft filled with Valoran soldiers descended toward Earth's surface. The first wave targeted 3 continents. They would establish bases and begin the conquest from there. The humans did not try to stop them. Their primitive aircraft stayed on the ground. Their satellites continued their slow orbits. Their radio channels were filled with confused chatter and panicked voices. Lord Draven watched the invasion unfold from his flagship. It was going exactly as planned. His soldiers landed without resistance. They secured their landing zones within hours. Reports came in from commanders across the planet. Minimal contact with enemy forces. Local population fleeing the area. No significant military response detected. Draven smiled. The humans were behaving exactly like every other primitive species the Empire had conquered. They were running. They were hiding. They were hoping that if they stayed quiet, the monsters would go away. But there was one report that caught his attention. It came from a landing zone in a mountainous region of what the humans called Asia. The commander there had noted something strange. "The civilians are not panicking," the report read. "They are leaving calmly, organized. Some of them are carrying supplies into the mountains. They do not seem afraid. They seem like they are preparing for something." Lord Draven dismissed the report. It did not matter what the humans were preparing for. His soldiers had energy weapons that could cut through steel. They had armor that could stop any projectile. They had air support that could level entire cities. What could a primitive species possibly do against such power? He gave the order to continue the invasion. More soldiers landed. More bases were established. By the end of the first day, Valoran forces controlled significant territory on 3 continents. Lord Draven sent a message back to the Imperial Council. "Earth is ours," he declared. "The conquest will be complete within 1 lunar cycle." The warnings of the elder races were nothing but superstition and fear. He went to sleep that night, feeling satisfied. He had proven himself right once again. The Valoran Empire was unstoppable. No force in the galaxy could stand against them. But while Lord Draven slept, things were happening on Earth, in the mountains, in the forests. In the cities and towns that the Valorans thought they controlled, humans were gathering. They were not panicking. They were not surrendering. They were doing what their species had done for thousands of years. They were preparing for war, Captain. Yuna sat in a bunker deep beneath the surface. Around her, officers from every nation on Earth worked together for the first time in history. Old enemies became allies. Old hatreds were forgotten. "I think this will be easy," Yuna said quietly. "They have no idea what they've started." She looked at the tactical displays showing Valoran positions across the planet. Then she smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. "Let them get comfortable," she said. "Let them think they've won. And then we will show them what humans are really made of." The real war was about to begin. The first Valoran patrol vanished 3 days after the invasion began. General Boss had established his forward base in a valley surrounded by mountains. It was a good position. High ground on all sides. Clear fields of fire. Easy to defend. He had 10,000 soldiers under his command. They had the best weapons, the best armor, and the best training in the galaxy. He sent a patrol of 50 soldiers into the forest to search for human settlements. Standard procedure. They would locate the civilians, round them up, and bring them back to the base for processing. The patrol walked into the forest. They never walked out. Voss sent another patrol to find them. That patrol vanished too. On the 5th day, one of his scouts found the remains of the first patrol. The bodies were scattered across a small clearing. Their weapons were gone. Their armor had been stripped. Some of them had been killed by their own guns, but that was not the worst part. Someone had arranged the bodies to spell out a message. For words in the Valoran language, "We are coming." General Voss had conquered 9 worlds. He had faced enemies that could shoot fire from their hands. He had fought creatures 3 times his size with claws that could tear through metal. He had never felt fear. He felt it now. The attacks came every night. Small groups of humans would appear from nowhere, strike hard, and disappear before the Valorans could respond. They destroyed supply convoys. They assassinated officers in their tents. They planted explosives that brought down entire buildings. The humans did not fight like any species the Valorans had encountered. They did not form battle lines. They did not meet the invaders in open combat. They used the land itself as a weapon. Every forest hid snipers. Every building could be a trap. Every shadow could hold death. One human became legendary among the Valoran soldiers. They called him the Ghost. His real name was Taiho. He was a former school teacher. He was 32 years old. He had never held a weapon before the invasion. In 3 weeks, Taiho and his cell had destroyed 11 supply convoys. They had killed 2 battalion commanders. They had rescued over 200 prisoners from a Valoran detention center. The Valorans put a massive bounty on his head. They offered wealth beyond imagination to anyone who could capture him. They promised death to any human who sheltered him. No one betrayed him. No one ever would. But it was not just the guerrilla tactics that disturbed the Valoran soldiers. It was the humans themselves. General Voss captured a young woman during a raid on a resistance hideout. Her name was Hannah. She was a medic. She had been treating wounded fighters when the Valorans burst through the door. Voss interrogated her personally. He wanted to know the location of the main resistance bases. He wanted names. He wanted targets. He used every technique he knew. Pain, fear, threats against her family, promises of mercy if she cooperated. Hannah told him nothing. The interrogation lasted 3 days. Her body was broken. Her face was swollen and bloody. She could barely breathe, but she never screamed. She never begged. She never said a single word that could help her captors. On the 3rd day, General Voss stood over her broken body. He was frustrated and confused. He had broken the will of species far stronger than humans. He had made warriors weep and beg for death. Why would this small, fragile creature not break? Hannah looked up at him. Despite everything, she smiled. "You still don't understand," she whispered through broken teeth. "We were made for this. We were made for war." She laughed then. It was a terrible sound. Blood bubbled on her lips as her body shook with dark amusement. "You think you know violence," she continued. "But you don't. Your species evolved on a peaceful world. You learned to fight because you wanted to conquer. We learned to fight because we had to survive." She coughed, and more blood came up. Her voice grew weaker. "Your planet tried to kill us from the day we were born. Predators, disease, famine, ice ages, volcanic eruptions. Everything wanted us dead. But we survived. We always survive." General Voss leaned closer. "Your species will be enslaved. Your world will be stripped bare. You've already lost." Anna's smile widened. Her eyes were glazing over, but something fierce still burned behind them. "You cannot enslave us. You cannot break us. You can kill us. Yes. But for every one of us you kill, 10 more will rise to take their place. We do not surrender. We do not forgive. And we never ever forget." She took one last breath. "You should have listened to the warnings." Then she died. Still smiling, General Voss stood in the interrogation room for a long time. He looked at the small body on the table. This creature weighed less than half of what a Valoran soldier weighed. She had no natural weapons. No claws, no armor. No venom, but she had not broken. In the end, she had looked at him with something close to pity. That night, General Voss sent a message to Lord Draven. He requested immediate evacuation for his forces. He reported that the situation on the ground was deteriorating rapidly. He admitted, for the first time in his long career, that he was afraid. His request was denied. "You have 10,000 soldiers," Lord Draven replied. "Use them. Crush the resistance. Show these primitives the price of defiance." General Voss read the message and felt something cold settle in his stomach. Lord Draven did not understand. He was up in orbit, safe on his flagship. He had not seen what Voss had seen. These humans were not primitives. They were something else entirely. Something the galaxy had never encountered before, and they were just getting started. 3 months later, General Voss was found dead in his private quarters. His throat had been cut with his own knife. On the wall beside his body, someone had written a message in his blood. "The ghost says hello." Taiho and his fighters had walked into the most heavily defended Valoran base on the continent. They had killed the general in his own room, and they had walked out again without losing a single person. The war was no longer going according to plan. 6 months into the invasion, the Valoran Empire had lost 300,000 soldiers. Lord Draven stood on the bridge of his flagship and stared at the reports. The numbers did not make sense. His forces had the best weapons in the galaxy. They had armor that could stop any projectile. They had air support and orbital bombardment capability, yet they were losing. The humans had adapted faster than any species the Valorans had ever encountered. In the first month, Valoran energy shields were completely impenetrable. Human weapons bounced off them like rain off stone. By the 3rd month, physicist named Dong Yun had cracked the shield frequency. He was 26 years old. He had been working on his doctoral thesis when the invasion began. Now he spent his days in an underground lab, taking apart captured Valoran equipment and learning its secrets. He discovered that the shields operated on a specific energy wavelength. He built a device that could disrupt that wavelength. Within 2 weeks, human weapons were cutting through Valoran. Shields like they were made of paper. The Valorans changed their shield frequencies. Dong Yun cracked the new frequencies in 4 days. They changed them again. He cracked them in 2 days. They gave up and switched to a completely new shield technology. Dong Yun smiled and said that would take him at least a week. It took him 5 days. In the 2nd month, Valoran air superiority seemed absolute. Their fighters could fly faster, turn sharper, and hit harder than anything the humans had. They controlled the skies completely. By the 4th month, a pilot named Salman had changed everything. She was 31 years old. She had been flying commercial airplanes before the war. Now she flew a modified fighter jet held together with spare parts and determination. Salman studied the Valoran pilots. She learned their patterns. She discovered that they relied too heavily on their sensors. They trusted their technology completely. It made them predictable. She developed new tactics. She taught other pilots to fly low, using terrain to mask their signatures. She showed them how to create false radar images that sent Valoran fighters chasing ghosts. She invented maneuvers that the Valoran pilots could not match because their ships were designed for space combat, not atmospheric warfare. Within 2 months, Salman had shot down 47 enemy aircraft. She trained over 300 pilots in her techniques. The humans still did not control the skies, but the Valorans no longer controlled them either. But the true turning point came when the humans decided to take the war off. Earth. A special operations team was assembled. They were volunteers from a dozen different nations. Their leader was a woman named Yunji. She was 38 years old. She had spent 15 years in her country's special forces. She was the most decorated soldier in the resistance. Their mission was simple and insane. They would capture a Valoran warship. The target was a cruiser that had been damaged in a ground attack. It was sitting in low orbit while its crew made repairs. It was defended by only a skeleton crew. Yunji and her team launched in a stolen shuttle. They approached the cruiser slowly, broadcasting a fake distress signal. The Valoran crew thought they were picking up survivors from a crashed transport. The airlock opened. Yunji and her team poured through. The fighting lasted 18 minutes. 52 Valorans died. 3 humans were killed. By the end, Youngji was standing on the bridge of an alien warship, looking out at the stars. She did not know how to fly the ship. None of her team did. But they had brought a computer expert named Jisoo. He was 22 years old. He had been a video game streamer before the war. Jisoo sat down at the alien controls. The language was completely unknown to him. The systems were nothing like anything he had ever seen. But he had spent his whole life learning how machines worked. He had a gift for understanding technology. He figured out the basics in 6 hours. He learned to control the weapons in 12. By the end of the day, he was flying the cruiser like he had been born in the pilot's seat. Youngji gave the order. The captured cruiser turned, its weapons on the Valoran Orbital Command Station. The station had controlled all communications between the fleet and the ground forces. It had been the nerve center of the entire invasion. Jisoo fired everything the ship. Had the station exploded in a ball of fire. Visible from the surface of Earth, millions of people looked up and saw the flash of light in the night sky. They knew what it meant. The humans were fighting back. Lord Draven watched the explosion from his flagship. He felt something he had not felt in 60 years of warfare. He felt doubt in the following weeks. More Valoran ships were captured. The humans learned quickly. They reverse-engineered the alien technology. They built new weapons based on Valoran designs. They developed tactics for space combat that the Empire had never seen before. Captain Yuna sent another message to Lord Draven. This time, she was standing on the bridge of a captured destroyer. Behind her, human crews operated Valoran stations with growing confidence. "You came to our world," she said. "You thought we were primitive? You thought we were weak? You were wrong." She leaned forward, her eyes hard as stone. "We are the children of a harsh world. We survived ice ages and plagues. We survived our own weapons and our own worst instincts. We have been fighting since the first day our species existed." She smiled, and it was cold. "You have been fighting us for 6 months? You have lost 300,000 soldiers. You have lost control of our skies. You have lost ships that should have been impossible for us to capture." Her smile vanished. "And we are just getting started. Every day we learn more. Every day we grow stronger. Every day the gap between us closes. You cannot win this war. You can only choose how many of your people die before you accept that truth." She ended the transmission. Lord Draven stood alone on his bridge. For the first time, he understood what the elder races had tried to tell him. Earth was not a planet to be conquered. It was a warning, and he had ignored it. The last Valoran forces on Earth surrendered after 11 months of war. Of the 2 million soldiers who had invaded, fewer than 200,000 remained alive. Their weapons had been captured. Their technology had been taken apart and studied. Their tactics had been learned and countered. Lord Draven watched the surrender ceremony from his flagship. His remaining ships hung in orbit, surrounded by a growing human fleet built from captured vessels and new designs. He could not attack. He could not run. He could only watch as his empire's greatest military force laid down their arms before a species they had dismissed as primitive. Captain Yuna accepted the surrender personally. She stood straight and calm as Valoran generals knelt before her. She did not gloat. She did not mock them. She simply took their weapons and sent them to holding facilities. One of the generals looked up at her with hatred in his eyes. "This changes nothing," he spat. "The Empire will send more fleets. They will burn your world to ash." Yuna looked down at him. Her expression was impossible to read. "We're counting on it," she said. 1 week later, Yuna broadcast a message to the entire galaxy. Every species with communication technology heard her words. The message was simple. To the Valoran Empire. You came to our world uninvited. You killed our people. You burned our cities. You murdered the innocent and the helpless. Her eyes held something ancient and terrible. We are not a forgiving species. We do not forget. And we do not let debts go unpaid. Her voice grew cold. You have 2 choices. You can surrender now. You can release every slave your empire has ever taken. You can pay reparations for every crime you have committed. She leaned forward. Or you can wait. You can watch as we build our fleet. You can watch as we master your technology. And when we are ready, we will come for you. We will come for your homeworld. We will come for everything you have ever built." Her smile was like ice. "The choice is yours. But know this, we are coming. Nothing in this galaxy will stop us." The Empire did not surrender. They could not believe that a single primitive world could threaten them. They sent more fleets. Larger ones. More advanced, the humans destroyed them all. Within 5 years, humanity had built a fleet of over 1,000 warships. They used Valoran technology as a base, but they improved it. They made it faster. They made it stronger. They made it deadlier. Within 10 years, it reached the Valoran homeworld. Lord Draven watched from his palace as human ships filled the sky above his planet. He was old now. The years of defeat and failure had aged him terribly. The greatest military commander the Empire had ever known had become a symbol of their greatest failure. The human fleet did not bombard the planet. They did not burn cities or kill civilians. They were not like the Valorans. Instead, they landed troops. They occupied strategic positions. They captured the Imperial Council and the military command. They did it with precision and efficiency that made the Valorans look clumsy. Lord Draven was brought before a human tribunal. The trial was held in the Grand Hall where he had once planned the invasion of Earth. Now it was filled with human judges and witnesses from a dozen conquered species who had come to see justice done. The chief judge was a man named Jin Wu. He was 53 years old. His entire family had died in the initial bombardment of Earth. His parents, his wife, his 2 young children. He had lost everything in the first hours of the invasion, but he did not seek revenge. He sought justice. Jin Wu looked at Lord Draven with calm eyes. There was no hatred in his expression. There was something worse. There was certainty. "The elder races warned you," Jin Wu said quietly. "The Kethmari, the Luminari, the Shadowborn. They all told you not to come to Earth. They told you what we were." He leaned forward. "You called them cowards. You called them weak. You laughed at their fear." His voice remained steady. "They were not afraid of us because we are violent. Every species in this galaxy has known violence. War is not unique to humanity." He stood. "They were afraid because we never stop. Once we begin something, we see it through to the end. We do not surrender. We do not retreat. We adapt and we overcome." He looked directly into Lord Draven's eyes. "And we never, ever forgive." Lord Draven was found guilty of crimes against humanity. The sentence was death. He was executed at dawn the next morning. He died as he had lived, showing no fear. But in his final moments, he finally understood what the elder races had known all along. Some worlds should be left alone. Some species should not be awakened. Some warnings should be heeded. He had learned too late. The Galactic Assembly formally welcomed humanity into its ranks. 1 year after the fall of the Valoran Empire, every species in attendance had one thing in common. They had all at some point considered invading Earth. None of them ever would now. Decades later, an old woman sat in a garden on Earth. Her name was Yuna. She had once been a captain, then a supreme commander. Now she was simply an elderly woman enjoying the sunshine. A young Valoran historian came to visit her. He was writing a book about the war. He wanted to understand why. Why are humans the way they are? Yuna was quiet for a long moment. She looked up at the blue sky and the white clouds. Then she smiled. "It was almost sad. Our world made us this way," she said. "Every other species in this galaxy evolved on worlds that were kind to them. Worlds that gave them food and shelter. Worlds that wanted them to survive." As she looked at the young Valoran. "Our world tried to kill us every day. Predators hunted us. Diseases ravaged us. Ice ages froze us. Droughts starved us. Even our own sun burned our skin." She closed her eyes. "We survived because we had to. We fought because we had no choice. We became what we are because our world gave us no other option." The historian wrote down her words. He went home and finished his book. It became the most widely read book in galactic history, not because it was well written, because it was a reminder. The title was simple: Do Not Go to Earth, Across 1,000 Worlds. 1,000 species read those words and understood. Some warnings should be heeded.